Hey folks, I've got another great quilt kit base tutorial for you today. This one is called Different Opinions. So no matter what you see in this quilt block, I'm sure you'll all agree it's awesome, it's super fun and easy, and if you'll stick with me, I'll teach you how to make it. Let's get stitching. Hey, welcome back everybody. I'm Rob Appell, your host from Stitchin Heaven, right here on YouTube. So well is what we call the show, and we are gonna have a blast today working on yet another amazing pre-cut quilt kit from our friends at Stitchin Heaven. So as I dive in real quick, this is called Different Opinions. The name came from a lot of folks saw different things in the fun quilt block. Either way, it's a super easy to follow pattern. We're gonna make a couple of blocks, scramble them all over. It's great fun. And if you haven't seen one of my other videos using a quilt kit from Stitchin Heaven, please be aware, this is what we're calling laser cut or pre-cut. So we have all of the pieces as you see cut and labeled in their bag. So actually that's why I left everything intact. I want to make sure that you kind of see the approach to this. There might be a little glare on the bags, but I apologize. So as we get ready today to sew, I've got my pattern, already taken that out of the bag, and then as I flip these over, I'm going to go ahead and just organize my strips, okay, and my fabrics. But I want to point out as we go through here, see this one? This says binding. We're not going to use that for quite a while. I've also got border 1 and border 3 strips in their own bag. Those are going to get set aside. I've got my fabric C, the border 2, okay, and I've got my border 4. So there's a wide border and a narrow border and a really skinny border that divides these beautiful gold browns. So those also get set aside. So now that eliminates a lot of the fabric that we need for this quilt kit. Quilt kit itself is 73 by 91. And now I'm gonna go ahead and take a quick moment, get all of these out of the plastic and get ourselves organized. If you watch till the end of the video, I'll tell you how you could be the lucky winner of this quilt kit so that you can finish off where we started here today. I'll be right back. And there we have it, folks. I am now officially organized, completely sorted through, and even made us a practice block to make sure I knew how to instruct everybody on a single unit for the Different Opinions quilt kit. Super simple. As we dive in, I want to remind you, even though you have a variety of different fabrics in the quilt kit, each block is made from the same print and background. So if you can see here, I've chosen kind of that solid rust color. So it'll be very easy to see. Some have small prints. Very cool. So as I build this, I have enough pieces to build a second unit that looks just like this. So I'm going to build that as we go, following the instructions here. And I'm a couple of pages in, and it really starts down here. Assemble the blocks, unit 1. And we're going to start by basically doing kind of like a snowball style to build this unit right here in the center. If you've never heard the term snowball before, means we're basically going to draw a diagonal line. So I have my bigger squares. These are 3 3/4, okay? I've got a diagonal line drawn across both sides. And then I also have my largest square. This is a 4 1/2, okay? So just by following our diagrams, and I'm really gonna look at the pictures with you all as we go today, thus making sure that my squares line up and my diagonal is running kind of from this upper left down to the lower right as we go. And I'm gonna stitch right on that chalk line. That is not a 1/4 inch guide. That is our sewing line in all of today's project. Any drawn lines we're gonna sew right on top of. So I'm just going right here using my needle, watching that chalk go through the front toes of the foot, keeping as straight and accurate as possible. This is going to yield a little bit of a scrap for us, and in order to protect your hand, I'm going to request that you use at least a cutter and a some sort of a ruler or something is what I'm trying to say as you trim off down to our 1/4 inch. Set that scrap aside, and now I'm going to press, and I'm going to go ahead, and it's really best if we pressed into our darker color for this particular project when possible. If you look real carefully in my seam, you can see a little bit of the bleed through from the first seams in that demo block, the prototype block, but it's not a big deal. Okay, oh, another thing to point out, because I'm using a really fun textured background, I'm double checking to make sure I always know that I'm working on the back side for my drawings and we are right sides together. Okay, so now let's dive in, flipping this page of our pattern very simply here, and that's where we are at now. Let's make it so it looks just like our diagram. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side, right sides together again, basically to form or sewing in that center strip. Okay, line up those squares nice. And the best thing about these kits is everything has been cut perfectly for you, trimmed down perfectly for you. So in the prep of my block, I just needed to sew and trim off the excess. The only reason I needed a rotary cutter is for trimming off the excess. Following that line all the way through, we've got that cut off. And once again, before I even press open, I'm just going to protect my fabric and my fingers, get myself a nice 1/4 inch seam allowance here like that, and we'll set those aside. I'm going to go ahead and press into the dark again because it just is going to make for a nicer finished visual. Okay, and now what I want to do, just like our diagram, I want to keep my line running upper left down to lower right, and we're gonna basically do a log cabin, folks, on one, or excuse me, I should say 2 sides. We're gonna build out with our backgrounds, then our print, then our backgrounds, and then we're gonna make these specialty units that go out here on the side. And actually, if you're following the instructions, we make those specialty units now. So let's go ahead and do that together. First, you have some long rectangular strips. This is a 7.5 long, and then this is a 9.5 long, and it's very important that you follow the written instructions. So we're starting with our longer of the two, the 9.5. I also have some 2.5 inch squares here with my diagonals pre-drawn, and I'm going to go ahead and set that diagonal in the upper corner into the body of the strip, just like you see on the diagram. Very important, folks. Very important to keep these diagrams correct today. Now, if your sewing machine is a sucker, I mean, it pulls the whole fabric in, even if you're using a single needle plate, you might want to start over here instead of starting at the corner. So that might prevent that fabric from getting stitched into the inside of your sewing machine. And again, it's a drawn line for sewing on today, corner to corner. Go ahead and trim. And I'm going to go ahead and press again, just for color management, into the darker of the fabrics. Okay, so that was our 9.5 inch strip, and I'm going to put it like you see in the diagram, set it aside, and then I'm going to grab my 7.5 inch, one more of these little squares, and now it's on the opposite side, upper, outside corner down into the body of. And again, what I was saying earlier is if you're concerned about that corner, you might want to spin your fabric. My handy quilter handles everything. Handle quilter, they should call it. Handles everything. And if I remember correctly, that's all I really need of the cutter for the rest of our programming today. Let me go ahead and press this also into the darks. And then these units will be set aside for later. Back to our centerpiece, making sure that it stays pointing outer left, lower right. And now we're going to go ahead and just grab, and these written instructions tell you exactly what sizes to start with and where they go on the right side. So right now I'm going to start with a 4.5 inch strip of my background fabric, and it's going to sew right out here. And you'll notice that fit perfectly right out of the kit without me having to do any extra trimming or anything. So if you're finding that your pieces aren't fitting correctly, I want you to double check your 1/4 inch seam allowance, make sure you're doing your best to be accurate with that, but you also may double check. Remember, each of these baggies all have their labels on them. Please make sure you're grabbing from the correct stack, and you'll notice my bags are still connected to my strips over here so that I can stay extra organized. This is the key right now. Okay, we just put on our right-hand side. We're going to put on our bottom. Once you get through that, Everything on the block will be the rest of your instructions or the rest of your guide. You won't get turned around accidentally from that point until we get out to our specialty units again. Okay, so we're just doing right sides, bottom sides. We're lining that up. This one was a 5.5 inch strip, folks. Okay. We're just going to stitch that on again, 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I would like to point out I'm also pressing after each block or each stitching that I do. Just helps things keep nice and crisp. Bringing the block back into the orientation. We're moving on to our background fabrics. Let's see, this is now a 5.5. Again, it's log cabin style. We're basically adding as we go. I'm going to take care of a little bit of that challenge sewing there by sewing straight over that seam. If you caught me pretending like that didn't exist, sorry. Now it's perfect again. And that's the beauty of quilt making. So, like we were starting to talk about, you know I love my comments, folks. We want you to make sure you're subscribed here at Stitchin Heaven. 6.5 going across the bottom. I would like to know what you see in this quilt block. That's actually how this particular pattern got its name, different opinions. Some folks saw one thing, some folks saw another. So I'd like to know in the comments below, what does the individual block look like to you? How would you name the project? And then later on in the video, I'll tell you how you personally might be able to win this quilt kit, partially constructed by yours truly. Which may or may not be such a great thing if you're watching closely with the construction today. Going a little quick, I understand, but we got a little bit more work to still do. I want to get you through the whole video today. Okay, make sure you continue to put ourselves back in that right orientation. We have one more row of the background fabrics to add in. So now I'm grabbing a 6.5 inch, adding it again to that right sides. Just double checking. You could kind of see the texture. It's a very light texture in this print, very nice, but it's sometimes a little challenging on these lighter fabrics. So take an extra moment, make sure you've got the correct side of these fabrics right. Again, pressing after each seam. Across the bottom, we'll now add a 7.5 inch strip. Another perfect fit. It's actually quite rewarding. I shouldn't let you all in on this little secret of mine, but I'm loving working from these laser cut or these pre-cut kits because it's so easy. I have no cutting, no trimming, and it's actually making me a more accurate quilt maker. After 20 years of making quilts, I think I finally found the most efficient way to make quilts, which is have somebody else cut them for me on a laser machine. And then I just get to assemble. It's super organized, low waste. Man, I tell you what, I am having a blast with this. Okay, let's go ahead and focus now. It's time to put our specialty pieces on. Where once again, we've been building all of this off of our right and bottom sides. If you look now in the bottom corner diagram, it's going to show you where you're going to put. So you're going to need your shorter of the two to begin with, which was that one that was made out of that 7.5 inch strip. Make sure your background diagonal is heading from the upper left down to the lower right. You see that like that. Now we're just going to go ahead and match those up, right sides together. Stitch this one on. I'm going to definitely press this one out into that outer dark fabric because it's such a long strip. Okay, so just as a reminder, that kind of points out creating this neat angle. So go ahead and when you put your next one in, make sure that those are working correctly. This was originally kind of a paper piece style block that we did. That's why we're using the snowball technique as our paper piecing or our foundation technique. Just a little deep insider information for you there, those of you who love to study quilts and quilting technique. Okay, look at that. And there it is, just like that. You can see some folks might have considered it a tree block if it was on point. That was one thing that was seen. You know, depending on how you want to put these together, they can do different X's or different like courthouse steps or whatever they could be. So there's a lot of neat ideas in the way this rotates and stuff. I want to go ahead and bring you to these background pages real quick just to finish up our conversation about the project at hand. What you'll notice here is they're basically building each as a now 4 patch with either the centers but different fabrics. That gives this quilt a lot of character using those different fabrics. So they're either, let's just call it putting the fat parts together or these skinny crosses together. Okay, and that, as you go through the diagram, you can see. And if you want to follow the actual color layouts as we have put together for you, then you're going to be guaranteed to have a real nice flow. Folks, again, the best way to make any quilt is to make all of your units and then all of your blocks so that you can mix and match your colors. Once all your blocks are on the design wall, then you know that you have a nice balance, let's say, of your golds and then your rusts and your greens and your blues all throughout the project. Don't sew any rows together until you've made everything. It'll just help you keep from getting yourself stitched into a rough spot that way color-wise. When it's all done, free motion quilting on this is going to be fantastic, but this is also another great place for some stitch in the ditch or some very basic stylized quilting, maybe in just the background, something like that. Use a variegated thread or a neutralized thread and kind of show off where you're at in your quilting journey, and it'll just be fantastic. I just want to thank you again for being here. Let's see if I missed any of the information. I do not believe so. Very exciting, very, very cool project with the different opinions. Oh, I knew I had forgotten something. How are you going to win this quilt kit? That's right. I will mail one lucky winner the rest of what we've got left on the table, minus my scraps. I'm keeping those for myself. So in order to win, of course, I wanted you to comment earlier and let me know what you saw in this quilt block. So feel free to comment again. Make sure you are subscribed. That's a key to your winnership. Be subscribed right here at Stitchin Heaven on YouTube and simply comment win. Whether your opinion is you want it or not, you could always give it away, so win in the comments below. We'll give you about a month to participate. The end date will be listed in the description below, as well with all the links to all of our great products and projects we have for you here at Stitchin Heaven. And I'm just so blessed to have gotten to spend a little bit more time with you today, helping all of you along your quilting journey. Thanks again for allowing me to present these wonderful quilt tutorials. I'm learning as we go, and I'm really enjoying these pre-cut kits. As I said, it is really simplified a lot of the guesswork in quilting, and my quilt tops are coming out beautiful by using these kits. So pretty excited to be sharing them with all of you. Make sure you check out what stitchinheaven.com has if you're not local in Texas, and we'll send you a kit. We'd love to do that for you. Anyways, again, folks, thanks for being here. Make sure you comment win so that I can send you or one of you this. And until I see you all next time, folks, thanks again and stay well. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. It really helps support our channel. If you haven't subscribed, do so now. Hit the little button to be notified every time we go live or do a new video for all of you. And here's one from the past I think you'll really enjoy.